Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 15. It's another episode of Girl Talk. And today, I have my favorite girl with me. Last time I had a friend on the show, I forgot to introduce her. I didn't announce her name. So, everybody, this is my mom. You can call her mom or Nana. I brought in the big guns today because, we're talking about midlife. And I wanted to ask an expert. So, who better than my mom? This is the best mom in the world, by the way. I love you, Mom.
I love you too.
Thank you.
I think she's the best mom in the world.
I am. I don't know about that, but I am your favorite daughter. I do know that for sure. Only because I have two brothers, right?
Right, you got it
It's all relative, but nobody needs to know that last part. So, Mom, I brought you on the show today because I want to talk about midlife. Now, I remember when we went to this show called, what was it called again? Mom's the Word. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a live play, and there was 4 or 5 women, and they talked about all the different stages of being a mom. And when we talked about the baby stages, oh my God, I laughed my ass off. It was so funny, and you were laughing so loud. And then all of a sudden they got to the teenage part, and I'm like, this is not funny. And you kept laughing. Do you remember that? You and Sylvia
sure
kept
do.
laughing. Yes.
Sure do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so now here I am in that stage, and I'm still laughing now because you have to laugh or cry, I find, because it's bittersweet. Now, there's many different levels to midlife, right? One of them is the physical things that happen. And I wanted to know, hey, what's going to happen to me when I hit midlife? So I asked my mom because, it's very, very common that you'll have a similar menopause experience than your mom. But my mom had a hysterectomy. So that means that her experience was going to be totally different. And back in your day,
Yes.
hysterectomies were very, very common.
They were.
Yeah, I remember for some strange reason, I was looking to get a cadaver so I could look at the human body, like it, all its parts. My mom's just like, oh my God, Heather, you're so crazy. And I said, I want to study the female reproductive system. And they're like, we don't get any cadavers in this age here that have uteruses. They've all had hysterectomies and, tubes have been removed. So it's not a complete reproductive system. And so that was very common for your day and age, is like, let's just get rid of everything.
That's really unusual in my personal experience, because I think of all my friends that I know and that I grew up with and that sort of thing, I was the only one out of that group that had a hysterectomy.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, you're not alone, because there weren't very many cadavers that had full female reproductive in that. So we won't necessarily talk about that, because when you have a hysterectomy, your physical symptoms are different than, if you don't have a hysterectomy, because it's all about hormones, right? Because that's like a hormone disruptor. So what we will talk about is the emotional angst and turmoil, the melancholy, the drama, the sadness, all the feelings that come up when it's time for your kids to grow up and be their own person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know you have big feelings. Like, you're not one to really, go deep into your emotions, but I know you have big feelings because we were your life growing up. You, totally put everything around us. That's why, we're just you and I are very close, is because we just had such a good relationship, except for those couple of years. Sorry about that. When I was like a teenage mean girl. Sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know. It wasn't me. It wasn't you. I'm sorry. I apologize.
There weren't that many episodes, Heather.
Yeah, it was just a short period of time, but I was a mean girl to my mom for a while. And I remember you saying, I'm tired of you treating me like a teenager you don't like. And that will always stick in my brain. It was like, oh, I'm so sorry. But back to my original question is, when it's time, because you loved being a mom, you loved taking care of us, right? Loved it.
I did. That was my job, my purpose in life for those years.
Yeah. So how did you transition from doing that to letting us go?
I changed the focus of my life because it was difficult. It's very, very difficult to let those kids go, to think they're going to be on their own. They've got to make their own decisions, and what sort of decisions are they going to make, and I'm quite sure I could help them with it. One of the things that I did when my youngest became towards adult, Heather here, I started to travel. And I didn't have a husband that wanted to travel. He wanted to stay at home.
So you got a new husband?
No, I traveled on my own. I traveled on my own sometimes. I traveled with friends. And that took me out of the circle of... I found that once a child moves away from home, you don't worry about what time they get home or where they've been or that sort of thing, because you can't do anything about it. If they're still in the house, you don't go to sleep until they're home and you know they're safe. So that's a big transition. When the child or the children leave home, they are really becoming their own person.
Okay, so what I'm taking away from this is I need to get rid of my kids. I need to get them out of the house ASAP. That's what I hear. Is that right?
Well, only if that's what you want to do. I didn't like letting my kids go. Thank you, just the same.
Yeah, you didn't like us to go, but when we
No.
did, you're like, why didn't I do this sooner, right?
No,
Oh.
I had one that said, Mom, I'm going to move out. I'm going to get my own place. And I said, no, you're not. I'm not finished with you yet.
That was Dean. That had to have been Dean, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't me, was it? No. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I'm not finished with you yet. I love it. But it's true, because my boys are 20, almost 20, and 17. And I'm finding like I'm in this stage of, because, I've raised them for all this time, and now it's time to let them go. And so they're kind of pulling away in a kind way, because they're very kind kids, very thoughtful kids. But for me, I'm like, I still want to be a part of it. So I'm trying to stay back and just let it happen. But I feel like I'm being left out. I feel like I'm getting kicked out of the band. I feel like, like those feelings, but I just have to like let them go and do their stuff on their own, because Santos just got his driver's license. So now it's like anytime he wants the car, I'm like, you go, you be free. And I'm like, can I come? Like I want to say that, but I can't. And so that's the melancholy part of it is like I still want to be a part of that, but because I didn't raise them traditionally. Like I'm not a traditional mom, so it's hard for me to not, I want to hang out with them and do stuff with them. Yeah. And so that's the part that's really is squishing my heart. But I, like you, I'm a traveler. I did a lot of traveling before I had my kids, and I think you're right. I think you're onto something. I've planned to travel as soon as Santos graduates, which is soon, right? Mm-hmm. And so changing your focus, I think, is a key. But, Mom, that doesn't make it any easier to go through what I'm going through right now.
No. Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'll make sure on the weekend that I know what they're doing before I make plans, in case they don't have plans, and maybe, just maybe, they might want to do something with me, right? Which they don't. But it's like I could insert myself, and it's just me letting go, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, sometimes you let go without realizing it, because we had a place down in Birch Bay, and I would go down every weekend, sometimes during the week. My husband would join me on the weekends and what have you. And I didn't realize at the time, but we were letting those kids go.
Yeah.
I've talked to many people that said, oh yeah, I know your place. I used to party there.
And that was all the boys. That was the boys.
Not always. Not always. So sometimes you let go without realizing.
Was it like, oh my God, I gotta get away from these kids? So you went to Birch Bay just to get away from us? And then we're like, hey, let's have a party.
No, we went to Birch Bay and they didn't want to come for some reason.
Yeah, I know, I'm feeling that, right? Like that's what I'm feeling right now is like, no, I don't want to hang out with you. Like, not that they don't love us, but they're just their own person.
Of course.
And just for the record, like you hit a certain age when you're a child, that because my brothers were all 2 years apart, right? And when you graduate, you hang out with your brothers. Like in school, no, because ew, you're my sister and stuff like that. But when you graduate, you hang out and go to parties or have parties with your brothers. It's a wonderful thing. And I didn't know that until I graduated. And it was usually like we would all end up at the same parties or, have people over to the house. That's so funny though that you're like, I didn't realize we were letting them go, but you were every weekend, right? Yeah. And just trusting, because you have to trust that you've done your job, that you've done the right thing, and who your kids are as human beings, right? Exactly. Don't you think?
Yes.
Like, did you ever have any concerns about like one of us more than the others, or?
Not really. I never had brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So my experience with siblings and all that sort of stuff was simply not there. So I just worked in my own mind with the personality and the character of each of the kids. And each of our children is their own person. Heather is nothing like her brother Dean. She is nothing like her brother Darren. Darren and Dean are nothing like each other. They are all their own persons. They have their own attitude, their own focus on the way of life and everything, and it's shown all the way through. So
yeah, I really appreciate that too about your parenting style. I appreciate everything about your parenting style, but I really appreciate that is like we're our own individual people. Now, there's a saying that if you get together for Christmas dinner and you look around the table and you can't point out like the black sheep or the weird one, then it's you, and that's me. And I know that about myself. Like, I'm the one who's strange in our family, and I know that. But you have always loved and supported me no matter what. Even if you're in your head thinking, I don't even know, Heather, what you're doing or talking about, like, but I'm going to support you through it, right? Like,
yes,
100%. I've always felt like nothing but love and support from you, even though sometimes you have no idea what I'm talking about or what I'm doing, or I don't even know what I'm doing, right? That's part of who I am as a person, and that's part that you embrace, like as like an individual child, right?
Yeah. Well, you see your kids go through these things, and they learn their lessons as they go through and make their decisions. And sometimes it takes a lot to get over some of the decisions that you have made, not just as a teenager or an early 20s, but later on into your year, you've made a decision about something or somebody. It didn't work out, and it takes a lot to get over that, both mentally and emotionally, and as I say, physically, being,
Yeah.
So.
And you, as a parent, can probably see it coming, but you have to stand back and be like, it's not my place, or I have to let this happen because it's not my life. It's not, it's their decision, it's their choice. But at the beginning of the podcast, you had said, like, I know I could help them with this, right? It's like, if they would just ask me, because I've done this 20 times, right? I know I could save them so much headache, so much hassle, but they don't ask and they don't want to hear from me. And that's okay, right? Like, it's hard to not put that in.
But it's really interesting when you get to my age, where all my children are definitely mature adults, and the problems that they've had, they have managed to solve themselves. In every case, the things that they enjoy doing, they have made the most of all of those things. They still are, and I just found that it's so nice to see that what you did during the young years has maybe helped them along to becoming real independent, valuable to the society type of people.
Thanks, Mom. You know what I noticed is when we see our kids doing things, it's hard to, like, as a mom, because when they're little, you have to tell them everything to do, right? And so at some point you have to stop doing that. And it's hard. Like when my kids go out, this is a big one. I'm like, have you brushed your teeth? And I know that's like, but it's a teenage boy thing, right? Like, because one will say, Mom, I'm 17, of course I brush my teeth. And the other one will be like, no, I haven't, right? So it's like, that's why I'm asking right there, because, but it's like, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. That's the voice in my head. Like, don't say it, just let them figure it out. Like when I was learning how to park, we were parking and I took him to the smallest parking spots in the community center underground, the smallest ones. And then we parked and I'm like, how was that? And he goes, well, basically you parked it. Cause I was like, turn left, do it. Like I was telling him how to do everything. And I needed to just let him do it and experience it. And so what I noticed you do, and is probably different for everybody, is for me, because you know me so well, if you tell me what to do, I'm going to do the opposite because I don't like being told what to do. And I know that about myself. And you know that about myself.
She's
right?
just like her father.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, not my fault. I get it from my dad. So you know how to deal with dad. You know how to deal with me. But the one thing you do, instead of being like, Heather, why don't you do this? Which would totally send me, like I would just ignore it. You say, I don't know if you do this or not, if you consciously do this, but you'll bring it, you'll be like, I like to, and you talk about how you do things and what works for you, as opposed to you should do this and you should try it like that. Did you know you do that when it comes to me? Yeah. You're like, and I noticed this like maybe 10 years ago. It's just so kind and gentle. It's like, I always like to do instead of, hey, do it this way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you subconsciously learn how to give advice to me and share with me without doing it in a way that is totally not received by me at all. Right.
Well, I know what's not received by you.
Yeah. 100%.
And of all the children, you're the one that really lets me know if it's not something that is going to happen, because
I'll be like, not today. But the boys will be like, yeah, they'll just let it all go, right? We are very, very different human beings, but we all get along. Like, I just want to say, like, I'm so grateful for you to, like, that, because I chose you as my mom. So I'm so grateful that I chose you, because you have just made this experience for me so amazing. Like I words can't even express how much I love you. Do you know that?
Yes, I do, because you're always telling me.
Yeah.
And that's always reciprocated, and you know that.
Yes.
But I'm not a say it all the time person about the love I have for you guys, but you do know that it's there.
Oh, for sure. 100%. There are many ways to show your love, and I like to tell you, and I like to hug you, and all those different things, right?
Yes.
And you show me love in everything that you do, like the cookies and all that, but the flowers, I'm talking about flowers, and you show up with all the flowers, right? Like, there's no way in this realm of possibility that I couldn't feel ultimately loved by you. Like, I feel like the most special person in the world. And I have like a list of my favorite people, and you are the favorite person. You're number one on my list. You'll never drop from number one. And everybody under there has to like live up to this, and it's tough.
I'm just an ordinary person.
No, you're not.
Ordinary mother. That's all.
You're my mom, and you're the best mom in the world. And I know that these types of things aren't comfortable for you to do, but I just wanted to share you with the world, because I think that everybody can, benefit from your wisdom, because you're just such a wonderfully smart, brilliant, kind, loving. I could just go on and on, but
that's enough. Thank you. That's more than enough. Thank you.
So thank you, Mom, for being there for me all the time, and for sharing your expertise with all the midlife moms out there, because it's nice to know that we're not crazy, like this is a normal thing. And here's one perspective on how you can, master midlife, like make it through this breakup. I say, like, your kids are breaking up with you, and I feel like I'm going to break up with my kids at some point, right? Like they're breaking up with me, and then there's going to come a time where I'm just going to dump them. And it doesn't sound nice, but you know what I mean? I'm going to break up with them at some point.
Yeah, well, the birds have it right. They kick their kids out of the nest.
Yes, right?
Yeah, it's time to fly.
It's time to fly. I love that. So I'm going to go back to that original piece of advice is like, it's a lot easier to go through this when your kids have left the house. And I'm laughing because I'm like, oh, that would make it so much easier. But my heart is like, you can't do that. I want them to stay with me forever. If they lived in my basement till they were 50, I'd be okay. Right? So it goes. So thank you, Mom. I love you very, very much.
I love you too, my dear.
And thanks for listening. Remember, always, always, always love yourself first and have an amazing day.
Bye now.
Mwah.
Thank you.